Welcome back to the Solutions Lab. I'm Chris Phillips, D&H's Presales and Solutions Team Lead. We've talked a lot about security over the last couple of months here at the Solutions Lab, and that's all been focused around network security, keeping your company's data safe while it's within your company's walls. But it leaves a hole in that security, in that what happens when that data leaves the office, whether it be because you have a mobile workforce or a workforce that brings their own devices, or you send that data to the cloud or share that with clients. When that data leaves your company's UTM, you no longer have the security you had over it previously. So in a lot of cases, companies will utilize the cloud to store their data and send it to their mobile workforces. But most companies still also are really weary of the cloud. They don't know where that data goes, and at some point they fear that a hacker, no matter how good they say the security is, will still be able to get a hold of their data. So what can be done for a company that doesn't want to use the cloud to store their data, still wants to share it, but also wants to manage their mobile workforce? Well, in a lot of cases, they will just use these flash drives. We've seen them. They've been around for dozens and dozens of years, and they're really great at one thing: storing and sharing data. But the problem with that is, once they share data, they can also share things that maybe you don't want, like malware. It's very easy for me to take company data off this laptop, put it on a flash drive, plug it into a client system to do some kind of presentation. But if the client system doesn't have the same kind of data protection that my system does, that client system can be affected with malware. Now it's infected in the flash drive, and the next time I plug it back in, I've infected my system with malware, and that's no good for anyone. Another problem is this flash drive, even though it's easy to share data, it's also very easy to lose. If I put a bunch of company data on this flash drive and then lose it, there's no way for me to get that data back. And there's no way for me to guarantee that the person that does find that flash drive can't access that data. That's a huge problem as well. Another thing to think about is, what if you're a company that makes backup images of servers or client systems that have company data, put it on an external hard drive, and then take that hard drive off the company network and off to a secure location? That's a great practice, but what happens if that hard drive is sitting in your home or your car and it's stolen? Quite frankly, those are two easier ways for hackers to get a hold of your company's data than hacking into the cloud. So this is a huge security risk. So the next question is, what can we do about this risk? Well, DataLocker has had a line of products for the last several years that offer endpoint encryption right on the devices to keep company data safe if it's on a flash drive. You put this flash drive in, you need a password to access the flash drive. The drive's data is encrypted, so if it's ever imaged in any way, shape, or form, they're still not going to be able to get at the company data. But that still only solves one part of the problem. What happens if I lose it? Or what happens if I need to know what data is moving on and off of it? There's really no way to do that until DataLocker released their new product. The SafeConsole is DataLocker's management solution for all of these hard drives. It allows you to see the data that's coming on and off the devices, provision users for each devices, provision single form or multi-form authentication for all the devices, as well as remotely wipe a device that has been otherwise compromised or stolen. It also offers McAfee antivirus directly on the device to keep all the data on it safe from malware or ransomware. But none of this means anything if these devices aren't easy to use. So the first thing I want to do is I want to plug one of these in, show you how easy to use it on this system, and then we'll actually go into the SafeConsole and show you how you can set up users, manage these devices, and wipe them should you need to. Let's take a look. So once we plug in the flash drive, it's actually going to act like it is a DVD-RW, as you see down here in the bottom right-hand corner. We're going to open it up and run the unlock exe. And it's actually just going to bring up a little screen in the bottom right. It's going to ask for the device password. Now this is set up at the time that the device was set up, and we're going to show you the setup process a little bit later. And it's as simple as just putting in the password, and it'll unlock the device, unencrypt all the data, and you can kind of see in the control panel here that we've got the control panel open, and it just opened the device as a kind of a flash drive, and we can just hit the file, and now the Windows device is actually just seeing it as a normal flash drive. You have our private USB flash drive right down here, and at this point it acts just like a flash drive. I can copy files off of it and then put them back on if I want to. I can replace these files, and it acts as a normal flash drive. You can also go down here in the settings and then see that there's malware enabled on this, and we're going to show you where you can enable malware once we get into the SafeConsole. But that's always scanning and updating as we go. It's scanning the files as they come on and off, and it's pretty simple to use. All you have to do is set up the password. You can use it as a single form of authentication, or you can do multi-form authentication. We'll show you a little bit later. Or you can do it where the flash drive recognizes this laptop as a trusted device, and once you plug it in, you actually don't need to input a password at all. You only need to input the password when you're putting in a device that isn't trusted. And again, we'll show you all that stuff a little bit later. The other way this works is if you have one of the encrypted hard drives, like the DL3 over here, there's actually a front screen LED that brings up a pin pad. You can set a 7 to 10 digit pin, and the great thing about this pin pad is every time you go to enter a pin, it actually rearranges the digits in which the pin pad has them laid out. So there's no way to kind of do pattern recognition to unlock the device. You actually have to know the hard pin code, and once you get done putting in that pin code, you can hit connect, and then it shows up on the PC like any other external hard drive would, and then you can operate it from there as normal. So these are two really basic ways to use these devices, and this is how you would use them if they weren't managed. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take these devices and take them to the next level. We're going to add the SafeConsole management tool to these devices, show you how to roll out policies to these devices, show you what you can do with these devices once they're enrolled in the SafeConsole, and how you can mobily manage the data and wipe data should you need to. So we're going to jump into SafeConsole now and take a look at that. So here we are at the SafeConsole login screen. I'm going to log in real quick here as the administrator. It's going to take us to the SafeConsole dashboard. We'll go ahead and remove the release notes. And you can see the dashboard has, just right up front, a lot of information you can take a look at in a quick glance. You can see the number of devices that are online, the number of devices you have enrolled, the number of devices that haven't received any updates, and this is particularly important when we start rolling out policies. If there's a new policy that you're rolling out to a device and hasn't been plugged in yet to receive that policy, it's going to show up here. And then the number of devices that you have disabled or are awaiting a factory reset. And we'll show you what that looks in a little bit later. But before we begin, what we need to do is actually enroll one of these devices within the SafeConsole. So what I'm going to do is over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Policies. There's a number of different ways you can do it. The way I found to do it, it's a little bit easier for me, is I'm just going to create a new user within one of these policies and then enroll the device under that policy. You can also just enroll the device using Active Directory information, but for our purposes, we're gonna do it this way. So over here, I'm going to add someone to our sales policy. I'm going to click this little wrench here, and I'm going to hit Add User, and I'm going to put in a username. This is going to be Bill Sales. And he's going to coincidentally have my email address. The email address is important because that's where it's going to send a token that is going to be required for the user to be able to log in and authenticate their device with the SafeConsole when they first plug it in. So I've created a user and it's given me a token. What I would suggest you would do, instead of sending the email to a user, right now I would actually just copy the token and send your own email. And I want to show you why in a little bit, because we're going to send the email to my inbox, and we're going to take a look at that real quick. So we're going to go ahead and send the email to the user. Then we're going to go over here to my inbox and we're going to take a look at this email we just got from the SafeConsole. So if I was Bill Sales and this is my email I got from DataLocker, all I would need at that point is I think, okay, I just need this token and we're good to go. So there's actually one more step, and we're going to actually show you what that step is. We're actually just going to unbox one of these fresh out of the package. This has not been enrolled, touched, or any way, shape, or form. I want to show you how it looks like to the end user, what they need to do to enroll the device in the SafeConsole. So they've got their email, and they plug in their device for the first time. And much like what I showed you before, that's going to start up that DVD-R thing in the bottom right, and we're going to run the unlocker. But unlike the last time, it's not going to give you the enter password screen because you haven't entered a password yet because you haven't set up the device. So it's communicating with the first time, and it's going to ask you, hey, enter the authentication token that was provided by your admin. Well, you would, if you were the end user, you would instinctively think that this token, the one they sent you via the email, is the one you should be entering. But when you enter it, we'll just paste it in here. I say I ran it. It's going to go, no, that's not right. It's actually missing one thing. That's why I say it's probably better for you to generate an email. So back in the SafeConsole, I'm going to close out of this window, and it's actually looking for a different piece of information. In the help section here on the left, in the quick connect guide, it's actually looking for the security or SafeConsole connection token that is right here, which is essentially the IP address, the URL that was created when your SafeConsole was set up. You want to copy and paste that, put that in the email to the end user, make sure they have that information because that's the information they need to put in as well as the token. So when we go back in here, we're going to put in that first. And now it's going to ask for the token we sent via email. I'm going to copy that and paste it in. So you got to just be clear to them that they got to do those two steps. Now as the end user, I've authenticated with SafeConsole saying, hey, I want to enroll this device. Here's my token. And now SafeConsole is coming back and it's like, okay, generate your password. And it's going to tell them all the password requirements. You're able to set these up to however you see fit, and we'll show you how to change those in a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and create a password for this device. I'm going to format it to FAT32. And now it is putting all the user information in here and adding it to the SafeConsole. And there you go. So in the SafeConsole, should be able to see under Management and Policies that we now have 2 devices and 2 users. We added another device and another user. We go ahead and click on it, and we can see we have Bill Sales and Joe Salesman in our sales force. So it was just that easy to take a new device out of the box, give your end users some basic information, and now have them enrolled in the SafeConsole. And now you can manage, as an admin, that USB device without ever having to touch it again. In fact, you never had to touch it in the first place because they could have just opened it up just like I did and went there. So now that we have all these devices in the management console, what can we do with the management of these devices, and what kind of policies can we roll out to them? Because that's where really the magic sauce for all this kind of sits. So we're going to go back into the policies, we're going to create some new policies, and we're going to show you what you can do with these devices now that they're enrolled in SafeConsole. So we're still in the policy tab here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to modify this sales policy that I've been working on. I've got a policy for the Solutions Lab users, which is pretty much our Solutions Lab team. It's got myself and Trevor and George that we saw in the couple webcasts ago, and Dave, who's a member of our marketing department. But I want to modify our sales team because they're the ones that are always on the road. I want to make sure the devices that they have on the road are as safe as possible for them. So under policies, I'm going to modify custom policy 14 because that's the one that's attached to this group. And it's going to bring up this this screen, and this is kind of where we do all of the work in terms of creating policies. The first thing you can do is just language defaults and whether you want to allow the user to be able to reset the device on their own. If you want them to have to come to you to reset the device, you can check that. If you want to disable password hints or desktop notifications, you can do that all through there. The next thing you can do is enable malware protection. This is an additional license you can purchase on top of the SafeConsole license. But this enables McAfee anti-malware protection onto any of these devices, which is fantastic. If they're plugging these devices into multiple computers, it will keep the data on this drive safe and malware free. I highly recommend this. We're going to kind of show you how we can filter out some files a little bit later, but this is a great active way to make sure these devices stay as clean as possible. Device state is a policy you can enable to require these devices to be plugged in and check in with the SafeConsole on a regular basis, or they get disabled and then have to be re-enabled by an admin of some kind. So if you want the devices to automatically lock themselves or disable themselves within 30 days, so if they get lost and they're not reported back to the admin, you can set 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, however you want, and then at that point, when that period has expired, it'll disable the device automatically, and then the user will have to go back to the admin to get that re-enabled. It's another great way of kind of keep those devices a little bit safe without having to use any hands-on management. Activity lock, it's exactly as it sounds. If you want the device to automatically unlock if there's been, or automatically lock if there's been no activity for 5 minutes, you can go ahead and do that. It's pretty easy there. Password policy, we saw that a little bit earlier. You can make sure you have to put in uppercase, lowercase, digits, require special characters as well. So you're also able to set how many times a user is able to fail in logging into the device before the device goes into a disabled or factory reset mode. So if you want the device to stop working after 5 failed password attempts, you can go ahead and do that. And then you can set the number of days between how often they need to reset the password. So if it's set to 0, they never need to reset the password. If you set it to 90 days, every 90 days they need to put in a new password. This is all pretty standard stuff so far, but this is kind of, now we're starting to get into the to the good stuff. Write protection. You can set up any devices within ABUs to make sure that it can't write any new data to it. If they are only doing read-intensive stuff, that's good for those devices. File restrictions. So this one's interesting. You can enable the DataLocker drives themselves to blacklist file extensions that you don't want on these drives. So if for some reason you don't want EXEs or BAT files or sys files sitting on the DataLocker drive, you can enable file restrictions, and that will tell the drive, hey, whenever one of those files show up on the drive, remove it. And I'll show you how that works a little bit, because I'm actually just going to add one that, so I'm just going to do something you probably wouldn't normally do. I'm going to actually just tell it to file restrict doc files, Word document files. Because I want to do it as a kind of a demo. I'm going to save that policy. And we're actually going to go into the device we just enrolled. All right, check for updates. All right, now the device is up to date. I'm going to launch the folder here, and we're just going to put in a Word document to the device and see what happens. I'm going to go into my document file, and I've got a very nondescript Word file here. I'm going to throw it onto the flash drive. And it's going to tell me right here that the following files are not allowed on your device. Please contact your administrator for more information, because we've locked out those files from the device. Now, if there are currently files on the device, the SafeConsole would remove those files as soon as the device was plugged in. So it's a great way to keep file types that you don't want on these flash drives that are at risk off of them. So it's another extra layer of security. Go back into the SafeConsole here. We'll take a look at some more policies. So device auditing. This enables you to get a log of when the device was connected, failed logins, failed password attempts, files being moved on and off there, etc. This is kind of what you need as a network administrator to be able to manage or audit the file movements and see when files are being copied on and off and to what devices those are going to. This is really great to be able to manage the data without actually being able to see the data and make sure your company's data is not leaving when it shouldn't be. Zone Builder. Zone Builder is what we talked about earlier when I talked about enabling two-factor authentication with these devices. With Zone Builder enabled, you can create a certificate on a device and upload it to the SafeConsole, and that certificate pairs the device with the device being the laptop with any of the SafeConsole, the USB flash drives, and the hard drives. This allows you to do a number of things. First and foremost, you can automatically unlock the device if the certificates match up, which allows you to not have to plug in that password if you're using the flash drive on a device that you trust. This is great for something like doctor's offices where they have a computer in their main office that they always want the flash drive just to automatically connect to and unlock itself. But when they go to the patient's rooms, they want the password to be enabled. So it kind of allows them to remove a step if they don't need that password. But it also allows you to do two-factor authentication, which means that this device will only work on devices that have their certificate and put the password in. So if you really want to make sure this data stays safe and is only used by certain devices and people that have the password, it's great for government purposes. That's the way you would set this up in here. You would uncheck the automatic login and check only allow devices using on computers linked to trusted zones. And you'd create this computer as a trusted zone within SafeConsole, and then the device will only work within that trusted zone. Furthermore, I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. You can enable geofencing, which will either fence by IP address or fence by location. So if you want the device to only work under certain IP addresses, that's another form of authentication you can put in there. Or if you want to make sure the device isn't used outside the country, if you want to make sure the device isn't used in, we'll say, we want to make sure the device is not used in any country like China or like overseas. You can put China, Japan, Russia. You can put countries that you're used to seeing kind of at-risk attacks for. Make sure they're set up as restricted areas, so even if this device is stolen, shipped overseas, it still doesn't work because it's actually in a country that has now been blacklisted by a SafeConsole. You could also just set it up to make sure it's only, we'll remove China, move these, and we'll just put in. And then we will whitelist the United States, so these devices can only be used within the United States, and if they're taken outside the United States, they won't work. So it's, again, another layer of security you can put on these devices from a policy point of view that you don't need to enforce yourself. You can have the SafeConsole enforce it for you. Another great thing you can add is Publisher. And when you enable a Publisher, what it's actually going to do is when a device is connected to a network, it's going to look for a specified share folder. In this case, I have it pointed to a NAS that we have in the Solutions Lab. And when I connect this device to the Solutions Lab network, it's going to grab all the files that are within that shared folder and copy them to the device. This is great if you have employees that are coming in and out of the office. Whenever they come in the office and they connect their device to their in-office PC, it's going to grab the latest sales numbers or latest PowerPoint presentations or latest marketing material. Whatever you point that file at, they can do that. Also, if they VPN into your company's office, it'll work the same way. So if they're on the road and they VPN into your office, it will still grab those files through the VPN and keep them updated. So it's another great way of sending files to your mobile users without technically having to use the cloud, because they're actually getting the devices from the NAS, not the cloud, so they're still getting it from your on-prem solution, but they can get it remotely if they're VPNing or if they're just coming into the office and connecting to the network. So there's a lot of great little policies you can put in here to kind of keep these devices safe and to keep them in a state that you need them to be, so you can have confidence that the data within your devices is secure and won't be tampered with or stolen. But what happens if just that happens? These flash drives are very prone to being lost or physical theft. What can you do with them if they're actually stolen? Let's take a look at that as well. So we're still back in the management page. We're on the policies tab as well. And I'm going to go ahead and unplug Bill's flash drive from this, and we're just going to lose it. I don't know where that device went. I don't know if it was stolen. I don't know if it was lost, but I'm Bill, and now that device is gone. And I'm going to email my admin saying, hey, my DataLocker flash drive is gone. I don't know whether it is. What can we do? Well, at that point, Bill had a lot of great information on there, a lot of sensitive company information. We got to make sure it doesn't get into anyone's hand. That Word document had the whole business on there, so we got to make sure no one gets that Word document. So we're going to go back into the SafeConsole. We're going to look in the policies, and we're going to go ahead and click on sales again, and we're going to bring up all the users and the devices. And here's all both our users, and we're going to go down here to the bottom where we have devices. And I've got Bill Sales and Joe Salesman here. And I know Bill Sales is the one, he just lost it. He's freaking out. He doesn't know where it is. He thinks it might be stolen. What we're going to do first of all is we're going to mark this device as lost. And we're going to deny access to it. So now that device has been lost and no one can get access to it. Even if you have the right password, no one can get into it because we've locked it down from the console. So what happens if Bill finds it? What does it look like when he plugs it in? And we're going to plug in the device back into the laptop. It's going to communicate, and it's going to try and go to unlock. Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. This device has been marked lost. Please contact your administrator. So as it was trying to bring up the login screen, it was already encrypting and locking out the device. So this device is now completely locked out. There's no way Bill can do anything with this until me as the administrator has been told, hey, I found it. Let's enable it again. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to pull this device back out, and we're going to go back into the console here, and we're going to go, hey, all right, we're fine here. Bill found the device. We're going to restore the device, hit OK, and now we should be good to go. So plug the device back in, do our normal steps, go to the unlocker, and we're good to go. I can put my password back in, and Bill can use it. But what happens if Bill truly lost the device? So let's show you what that looks like. I'm going to unplug it again. We're going to go to actions here, and now this time, Bill just really lost the device, and he thinks it's been stolen, and we just got to factory reset it. So I'm going to label this thing as a factory reset, and right now it's in a state calling waiting for reset. This device isn't actually reset at this time. All the data that was on it is still on the device. Right now, what's going to happen, though, is it's waiting for the next connection. And as soon as it gets the next connection to any device, it's going to wipe all the the data before it even brings up a login screen. So if I am now a malicious hacker or a malicious data thief, I've stolen this flash drive and I'm going to get all the information off of it because I know Bill's password. So I'm going to plug it in, get all of the Bill's Word file information, and I'm going to really bring his company down. And on the screen, it's going to bring up our DVD drive again. I'm going to unlocker it again. And right now, in the background, the device was being wiped. I still can't enter a password. Still spinning. The device has already been wiped, and right now it's doing the reset. And it's telling me, hey, the device has been reset. You must go through the initial process before you can use it again. So this device is now the way it was at the beginning of the webcast when we pulled it out of the box. Factory reset. All the data that was lost or stolen has now been wiped, and all of our company's information is now safe. It's a great, great tool, especially when you have one of these hard drives with a bunch of backed up systems on there. If this device gets lost or stolen, even if the PIN code is written on the back, you can still factory reset the hard drive and keep all that information safe. So I think through all of this, we've shown that there's a lot of options out there for mobile workforces that still use these flash drives or still use these hard drives, but want to have some level of management and security over them. We showed how to keep them safe from malware. We showed how to set up multi-factor identification. We've also shown how to wipe them in case that information has become otherwise compromised. With all that, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. We have a live Q&A after this. Stick around, ask your questions, but if you have anything after the fact, please email us at solutionslab@dnh.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.